Okay, so there are a number of different ways that you can actually be a better hunter in Monster Hunter Wilds. First of all, you're going to need to understand the HUD. If we look at the HUD, and you can see in the top left, you've got your health and your stamina bars. When you're not actually in a fight, these are the little circles with the lines coming out of them. The green one is your health, and the orange one is your stamina. Now, above that, you can see that we have 3 different icons, which is like a little bit of steak or meat. You have a sword, and you have the other icon next to that. Those are actually your buffs. You'll also find like cold and hot drink buffs here, or any other type of buffs that you have. You'll just see them there. Right underneath the stamina bar, you can see the palico symbol with the name. This is where you'll see the condition of your palico, and also other hunters if you're playing in multiplayer. In the bottom left of that, you can see herb, and if we're targeting a herb with our scout flies, that's going to be what that is getting targeted. If you look in the bottom left, then we then have the minimap, which also shows a bigger icon of the monster you're hunting, and you can rotate this unless you've changed it in your settings, which is totally fine. And in the bottom left of that, we also then have the weather and the time of day, which is pretty cool. Now in the bottom right, you can see the icons for your different items. Here you can pick your whetstone, your throwing knife, your paint pods, any type of items you actually have. And if you press the correlating button again, you can then pull up your entire item pouch, which is just pretty awesome. Any item that you pick will appear there in the square, and you can also see the different mantles that you have. You always have the ghillie mantle, plus an extra mantle for the one you've picked and equipped during the preparation stage. Now above that, you're going to have many different things depending on your weapon. If you're using a gun, you're going to see different ammo types there. If you're using the bow, for example, you're then going to see the bar for your abilities and also the coatings you're using, which is just pretty standard, so that's fine. In the top right there, we can then see and in the middle of the screen now, you can see the icon of the monster you're hunting. This will move around your screen depending on where you are looking. As you can see there, it's moving around. Pretty simple. The top right then has your current mission and objectives too if you're outside of a hunt. And if you're inside a hunt, you can see here, for example, it says hunt the Chatacabra, and will give you a clock to show how long you actually have to hunt that monster. The red bar is the time limit, so once the yellow hand reaches the red hand, the mission will then end if you haven't defeated the monster already. If you're unhappy with your choice of weapons at the start of the game, you can actually just come over to your tent, and then once you're in your tent, you can move over to the equipment menu. Here you can change your primary and secondary weapons. To be a better hunter, you'll want a primary and secondary weapon that actually complement each other and also complement how you want to play the game. For example, if you are a greatsword user, you will then have your greatsword equipped in the first one. That is a melee weapon, that's perfectly fine. What I'd recommend for a secondary, however, is a ranged weapon like the bow or light bowgun or any other type of ranged weapon, just to have a bit of a difference. And if you are going to play multiplayer with your friends, maybe consider taking something like the hunting horn, because this will give you buffs alongside your teammates as well, which is just a great way to kind of coerce as a team. So trying to pick your primary and your secondary weapon is a great way to be a hunter. Beginners, if you are going to pick something, I recommend the sword and shield, maybe even the bow, because the bow is also great for beginners. It's very simple. You just have to manage your stamina with that. It's quite a nice weapon. So if you are beginning the game, take sword and shield and a bow, maybe the greatsword if you like those slower weapons that hit harder. But if you don't like that, then try the sword and shield and maybe the bow. Now in combat, when you're using a weapon, the weapon is going to actually become blunt and stop being effective. It will start to then bounce off the monsters and just stop dealing damage. What you'll need to do is actually sharpen your weapon, and you can tell the status of your weapon just under your stamina bar there as well in the top left. So what you want to do is then activate your icons in the bottom right, and you want to scroll through and find the whetstone. Once you find the whetstone, you then want to make use of it. There it is. It's the yellow symbol with the knife and the stone. And you just press square and you'll sharpen your weapon, giving it full sharpness again, which is identified by the green bar in the top left. Once you have done that, your weapon will be effective again and start to become more blunt as you hit the monster again, so you'll need to sharpen it once again. Now, if you actually want to upgrade and get better weapons and armor, you'll need to approach Gemma the Smithy. You just press X or whatever button on your controller or keyboard it is, and you'll just come to I like to manage my equipment. Here you've got multiple options, for example, forge/upgrade weapons. You'll come here, pick the weapon you want to upgrade, click on it, and you'll see multiple trees. You won't have every item available to you as you start the game, obviously, but you'll be able to progress through the trees as you progress through the game. So for example, we're using the Hope Blade. We could upgrade this to the Hope Blade 2 using some iron ore because it just does more attack, over the Hope Blade 1 and can sometimes add new skill as well. For example, the Hope Blade 1 doesn't have a skill on it, but Hope Blade 2 has the speed sharpening skill at level 1, which is very nice. Then as you progress through the game, you can even get the Hope Blade 3 by using Dragonite ore and Macrolite ore, and this will also do more damage and also increase the skills as well, and now also adding critical eye for an example. And it will do this with other weapons, and you can also get different elemental versions, for example, if you look closely at the weapon tree. Now again, this is also the same when it comes to armor. You can just come straight into the armor smith and you can then pick your armor, and once you actually have a piece of armor, you can then press X on it and just straight up click upgrade. You'll need armor spheres to upgrade, which luckily they gave us 100 for every player at the start of the game, so you'll just click on that and then give how many armor spheres you want, and that will level up your gear to the highest level it can possibly be. For example, here the Hope Mask can be 16 defense and at level 8 using 7 armor spheres. Now, one thing you want to make sure you're doing in the game as well is using armor that actually corresponds with your build or your weapons in general. So you want something that actually complements you very well. For example, if you're using the bow and dual blades, you'll actually find that you need to manage your stamina. There are a ton of different armors that will actually help with this. For example, the Ray Dow armor will give us Constitution, which if we press triangle and go to skill information, we can then see Constitution reduces fixed stamina depletion by 10% at level 1 and will increase all the way to 50% at level 5 as well, so you can actually pile on more of these buffs to give you better skill levels and obviously make these skills more worthwhile. Like I say, Constitution and Stamina Surge for bows and dual blades is amazing, and then something like Slugger for the hammer and the hunting horn is also very cool. What I'd recommend doing is actually going through the armor and checking out which ones are the best to see which armor pieces are worth actually crafting for your build. Then the next way to become a better hunter is actually by coming into your tent and managing your item pouch. So as you can see here, we have a ton of different items that we've picked up in the field and also prepared beforehand. So I like to make sure that anything we don't actually need, we put inside our item box, and anything that I want for a hunt will stay in my actual item pouch. So mainly you want to make sure you bring a good item pouch loadout for every hunt. This might include things like traps to put creatures to sleep and capture them to help you out, so you'll need something like just a basic trap and tranquilizer. Then you want to make sure you have antidotes to any stats that you might pick up from enemies or debuffs, and also null berries because they're very good, so you just want something to status cleanse you. Then you can take something like barrel bombs. If you put a monster to sleep, you can do lots of damage with a barrel bomb, but you want essentially a lot of cool stuff. So stuff like potions to heal you, rations to cook, and just status cleansing, and also hot and cold drinks as well to help you manage the weather. I also like to make sure I have ammo for the slinger too, just because I find that in certain hunts that is just so beneficial. For example, the large dung pods to separate the Doshagumas from the alpha one, just because it's helpful. Now, the best way to actually craft is to do it in your tent, because this will then access items in your item box and also your item pouch. So you just come to the crafting list here and you can literally craft any items you want. So as you could see, we were out of mega potions. So if we want to craft some mega potions, we then need potions and honey, which we have a lot of, and then we can just kind of spam these mega potions and craft as many as we like, which is pretty simple. Now I have 40 of them stored in my item box, which I can then put in my item pouch for any hunt that I go on. Crafting in the game is very simple. You just go through the list of any items you want and you'll see what the required materials are, and then you can go out and actually hunt those down if you need to, or just straight up craft if you already own the parts. Now, another thing you need to take note of as well when it comes to items is that if you hold L1, you'll open up your radial. Now, I like to make sure that I have the D-pad there set to action, as you can see, and this will give us multiple options in our radial wheel. We'll have the whetstone and the SOS flare, but more importantly, we'll have optimal health recovery, which is great to use in a very quick instance during the fight. So if we need help, this is just going to give you the best option for healing in your item pouch at the time. So I'd recommend healing through this. And if you do have a debuff and you need to cleanse your statuses, you can then use the optimal status recovery as well, because that's there too, which is very nice. Now, sometimes your Palico will also heal you and cleanse your statuses, so just pay attention to audio cues on that. Now again, if we go into our items, we will then find ourselves a portable barbecue grill. Now you can either use this to cook, or you can come into your tent. And the reason why you want to cook is because cooking in this game will increase your health and stamina, and also give you a wide range of buffs. I personally like to cook inside the tent because, again, it uses items in your item pouch and item box at the same time. So you want to come over to the barbecue menu and you click grill a meal. Now you have multiple options. You have recommended meals, custom meals, and favorite meals. And if you look on the right hand side there, you can see all the different status effects. So if we click recommended meal, you'll see that it gives us a ration, which is meat, and that's going to give us health plus 50 and stamina plus 150 plus attack 2. Then we can see we can add additional ingredients, so you can cook only with rations, or you can cook and add ingredients to that. For example, the mud shrimp, which will give you the tumbler meal low version of it, which is pretty cool, and that will also give the duration of your meal plus 20, so it'll actually last 50 minutes in total, which is just kind of fancy. Now you can use the recommended meal, but I would recommend you do not use the recommended meal. I would recommend you come over to custom meal. Now the reason why is because you can literally create a, well, as it says, a custom meal. You can click here and pick your ration. So you can either use meat, fish, or veggies, and each one does a different thing. For example, meat will give you health plus 50 and 150 stamina plus 2 attack. The fish will give you the exact same health and stamina and plus 4 defense. And then the veggies will give you the same health and stamina, but this time plus 2 defense and plus 3 elemental resistances, which is very nice. Now let's say we want a build that picks that. That's pretty cool. Now we'll go to additional ingredients. So we can pick a number of different items here, but we'll obviously get access to more as you progress through the game. And you can see here that we're out of drool shroom, so we can't use these as an ingredient, but we can use kunafa cheese, which gives us defender meals, mud shrimp, which is tumbler meal, and sealed garlic, which is moxie meals as well. And the drool shroom is usually black belt meal, which I find very nice for stamina. So if you are using a bow or dual blades, the drool shroom is kind of how you want to go until later game. If you look in the bottom of the screen, you can actually see what that meal will do as well. For example, the black belt meal reduces stamina depletion when performing stamina draining moves, such as evading, etc., which is awesome. Once you then pick your additional ingredients, you'll go to finishing touches. This is where you might have a different item as well. For example, we have the truffle do conga, which is literally just conga lala poop. It's great, but you can see here that this will also add the gatherer meal onto our food skills, which is very nice. And in this case, with the truffle do conga, it will sometimes increase the number of resources per gather of bones and other gatherable items as well. So it's just really nice if you're going to start gathering items. So there's literally different finishing touches, different additional ingredients, and different rations that you can use to benefit your playstyle in the game. Okay, the next way to actually increase your ability as a hunter is to make sure you're keeping your palico well equipped as well. I know some people actually don't like how easy the game can feel at times because there are challenging monsters in the game, certainly, but some people have decided that they're going to disable their palico and leave them behind, which is totally fine. But if you're a player who is taking your palico with you, make the game easier by actually keeping your palico geared up to your level as well. So if we click on Forge Palico Equipment, we can see that the palico can have a brand new weapon and armor set as well, for example, just to help keep him up to date with where you are in the game. So every piece of armor will add different defenses and elemental resistances to your palico, and this is the same with the second piece of armor too. Each one might come with different buffs, but it's mainly just elemental statuses when it comes to the armor. Now the weapons are slightly different, however, because these will do different things. They have different attack types, different attack damage, and they also will give you an element or affinity or defense bonus depending on the weapon. For example, the feline Barina needle can add paralysis to 10 damage every time it hits the monster. This can actually end up paralyzing the monster, which is awesome. Then we have the Balahara drill, which will do water damage to any monster that you are fighting. Every single one is going to be beneficial to whatever you're doing in the game, so you want to make sure you've got the right attack type and also the right elements to help you while playing through the game. I actually like the status effect ones, for example, like the poison or any weapon that gives sleep and paralysis. Those are the ones I found work the best so far in the game, so there's another quick tip for you. Now the next tip is when you're actually hunting out monsters, you'll start taking damage and obviously seeing a red glow if you take too much damage. What this red glow is from the attacks if you're very low on health is that it's the game warning you that that is a fatal hit. If you actually get hit by that attack, you will cart, which means you're going to be knocked out, and you'll get like 2 more attempts before you actually fail the mission. In some other missions of multiplayer, I think you get like 5 attempts or however many attempts, but it will tell you how many attempts you have depending on the mission you're in. Either way, if you see a red glow when the monster is attacking, That means you're about to be killed, so just be aware of that and dodge and get out of there to heal as fast as possible. Now, when it comes to setting out to a mission in Monster Hunter Wilds, you're going to be obviously using your Sacred. Now, your Sacred actually has two modes depending on which button you press. Now, if you're playing on the controller, if you press up on your D-pad, this is the Sacred Auto mode. As you can see here, the Sacred will arrive and start taking you to your destination depending on what you've actually got marked. I have no objectives marked right now, so my Sacred doesn't actually need to go anywhere. However, if I marked a monster, the Sacred would go straight there, or an ingredient, and it would go straight to that location as well by default. This is sometimes a little bit difficult to help gather items, so I recommend actually not using this unless you've got a specific objective you want to reach. But if you want to collect some resources, what you actually want to do is press down on the D-pad, because this will then set the Palico into manual mode. So now the Sacred will go anywhere you actually want it to go and will stop depending on your settings. I like to go into the option pages and go to Sacred Manual Controls and go to Type 2, because the Sacred will then stop when I stop. For example, if I'm walking and let go of the trigger, it then stops. And that's just a really nice way to control manually. So let's say I want to collect these mushrooms, I can just stop, pick them up, and then continue on my way without there being any awkward Sacred controls at all to collect resources. Just a very nice tip for all of you players out there. Now, when you're fighting a monster as well, you'll have obviously seen the tutorials mention this, and you'll also see wounds appear on the monsters, which are the red glowing bits on wounds. You'll literally just see like cuts in the monster's form, and they'll start to glow red. These are the wounds. You want to target these because those areas take more damage, so you can deal more monster damage to them. And you'll also know that if you use Focus Fire mode, you can then pop those wounds very quickly and do a lot of damage. The damaging a wound with your Focus Fire mode will actually destroy the wound, and it tends to drop parts to actually give you more upgradable items as you progress through the game. I absolutely love doing this with the bow, but you want to make sure you actually target wounds with your Focus Fire mode so you can actually get more damage and more parts as you progress through the game. Another thing to look out for during a hunt is environmental traps. There are a number of environmental traps all around the locale, depending on the area you're in. Sometimes these are rocks that are floating above the monsters, sometimes it might be vines on a tree, sometimes it might be ice things that you can pull and slam a monster. For example, we have the falling boulders here. We can then pull these down on top of the monster and deal a high amount of damage in this area, for example. There are other examples all around the map, so you should actually study the locations you're in to find all of these cool, unique, interactable areas that will allow you to deal high damage to the monsters. Now, another piece of advice I have for you is to use the slinger to grab items from a distance. This is going to help you in fights as well if you need to refill your slinger for any reason, or just grab items while you're going in another direction. You can then grab the items from a distance using your slinger. All you have to do is target in, and you can then also press circle to claim the items. You can again trigger traps like this as well, like for example we have the trap there, or we can then go and see another item or resource that we want, for example like this. There's a good example too. Sometimes your Palico will go out and collect the resources for you, so you don't always have to do it, which is just kind of nice. While you're progressing through the game, you're going to find circles like this that glow, or areas where your Palico and other characters might suggest a pop-up camp. So what you can do is then approach these areas and create a pop-up camp by using your camping kit in your items. So you'd approach the area and you'd then just literally set up the camp. This will cost you some points, but obviously you make enough of these to just craft these. So you got to be watch out where you actually put these down though, because some monsters will destroy them when they come across them just on their usual path. But these are very good because they give you a place to rest and also use your items just like the actual home base. So you can see here we can transfer items between our item pouch and item box and do anything else we need. It's a great resting place. Honestly, these are fantastic. The other nice feature about these camps is that if you have multiple and you open up your world map, for example like this, you can then actually come over to the tent option and you can see there we can fast travel. So you can build these all around the area and start fast traveling from places to places. So as you can see down here as well on the map, we had one here, but I think it might have been destroyed. Ah, no, there it is. So we have Area 14 Groundwater Vein. So we can actually go underground and fast travel to that pop-up camp due to it actually being on the map because we already popped it up. Now these can spawn anywhere. You'll look for these symbols here, which show you where you've discovered areas to put a pop-up camp. Now when you're fighting a monster, you're going to need to actually know when it is weakened. Just knowing when a monster is weakened and what you can do is actually a big step up if you are a Monster Hunter player. So for example, when you're fighting a monster, you will actually look at your minimap and you'll see that it has a skull symbol next to it. This is when the monster is very weakened. It will then try to get away from you sometimes and escape back to its den, or it will start limping and just look weakened. If you put a trap in front of this monster and tranquilize it, you can actually capture the monster, which will give you more rewards, and sometimes a reward that you can't get by killing the monster. So you're going to have to capture some monsters to actually learn the differences between the reward trees for doing that. But knowing when a monster is weakened is also very nice, because that also means it's going to be close to death. So that's a good way to know if you're coming near the end of your mission. If we open up our item menu again, and this time use the radial, we spoke about the SOS flares before. SOS flares are very important, especially if you are a solo player or someone playing in co-op and you're both new to the game and you're struggling with a hunt. You can pop your SOS flare, which stands for Save Our Soul Flare, and this will then allow other players to see that you're struggling and come and join you for the mission. If no other players join you straight away, the game will sometimes offer you AI characters that will help you through the mission, but they'll usually get replaced by an actual player who also want to do that hunt. So it's a great way to find other players to help you on hunts when you're struggling. I like to use SOS flares just on harder creatures like Reaygun and Arkveld during the beta, for example. Now in Monster Hunter Wilds, the multiplayer works slightly differently. It's very weird. It's not just a simple case of you're all in a party and you go watch the cutscenes and play multiplayer together. No, you're going to have to speak to Alma over here by your tent, and you'll get the option to post and join a quest. Then you've got this thing called a link member quest. Now, you're going to have to actually make a link party, which if you go to your menu and come to the right here, you'll then see that we have the option to add a link party. We click this and invite our friends to all the link parties. Everyone needs to join the same link party. Then you'll start the quest and you'll watch the cutscenes in your own instances. And then once everyone is ready to actually join the hunt, they'll automatically get sent an invite to all join the same lobby to actually compete during the hunt. Now, if you're a solo player and don't have friends to do the link parties with, you can actually come up to Alma and then go to join and post quest. You click on settings, and if you come over to these, you want to make sure that the max members is set to 4 so you can have 4 players. You want to make sure there's no passcode on so people can join you, and that it just also accepts without you having to say yes or no to people. It's just very easily. And automatic SOS flare should be turned on. This means the minute you start a quest, an SOS flare will be popped and players can join you straight away. Having this off means that they can't, so make sure you have it on just in case. Obviously, if you want the challenge, you can leave that off and pop the SOS flare whenever you like, but if all you want to do is play with other people during the quest, make sure automatic SOS flare is on. Anyway guys, that is it for this video on how to get better at Monster Hunter Wilds. There's a lot of cool stuff that you can do to improve as a hunter, and these tips today will have helped you do that. If it did help you, please click the like button and subscribe. And I just want to make sure that you guys are aware that I am streaming Monster Hunter on Twitch as well, so make sure you come and check that out every Monday to Thursday. And I also have a public Discord where people can come and talk to us about Monster Hunter and even play the game. I'd love to build a community of Monster Hunter players there that help each other out in low rank and high rank. So please find the link to that in the description of this video and join and check it out. Anyway guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a brilliant day and I'll see you in the future. Peace.